think so.
Okay. All right. So, one good source of business is new home sales. All right. I mentioned yesterday in the training how we had a buyer, and it's in North Arlington, and every single condo that comes on the market has multiple contracts going above list price. Now, unfortunately, there's no $400,000 new condos in Arlington, but the good thing about working with new homes is you're not going to have competition. So if you have buyers who are stressed out and they tell you right up front that they don't want to compete on a contract, and they've heard that there's a lot of competition out there, you may want to consider new homes. Okay? So in dealing with new homes, every builder is different. Okay? Every builder's contract is different. Every builder's registration policy is different. There are several builders out there that if you don't accompany the buyer on the first visit, they will not pay you a commission. Okay? So you want to find out if your people are going to be buying a new home, what the price point is, and then you look at MLS for the new homes and you call the people and say, what's your registration policy? It's going to be the most important thing to protect your commission. Okay?
Can I add one
Now,
thing to that?
What's that?
Can I just throw in one thing? So when you have that buyer and you sign the buyer brokerage agreement, it's right there in the last paragraph. If you plan to visit a new homes community, let me know. So that's a great opportunity for you to make sure they understand. Do not go before you call me. Okay?
Correct. Correct.
Because they don't assume they understand.
They don't
They're
understand.
see the flags.
They buy a
and
house
come
every
in,
8 to 10 years.
and those
10
salespeople
years
are
ago is
aggressive.
different than today.
They
Right.
will not. Their job is to not let that person leave without a signed contract.
10 years ago, 2009, does anybody remember what the market was like in 2009? Nobody was buying. And the sign might say, no commissions paid if you don't visit on the first time with your agent or whatever. Because they needed a sale, they would do it. Today it's a little bit different. They're not. If that sign's there, they don't write you in on the contract. Different market, right? And so somebody could say, well, when I bought my house 10 years ago, they didn't mind that I didn't come in with my agent the first 3 or 4 times. I brought my agent in later. Well, it was a different market. So complex situations occur in hot markets, and this is, so you want to make sure that you get the registration.
Another thing I noticed on that, along those lines too, is negotiating with builders. It's like back then, like something they would never really do in the past. They were more open to some of those things. Like now, they're just like, ha 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 ha. Yeah, you want
Right.
what?
Well, it depends too, and we'll get into the negotiations too. So, so anyway, the other thing that you want to do is if your clients are looking to buy a new home, is go out to the new home site prior to you taking them out there. You don't want to go out there, just like if you're going to be showing houses, you want to preview the resales, you want to preview the new homes too. You want to know where the model home is in the neighborhood, so you don't look like an idiot. Number 2 is you want to talk to the new home sales agent, find out how sales are going, when they had their last price increase or decrease, what incentives they're offering, what their delivery time frames are, to see if that meets what your clients want to have as their time frame, and then which lots are available, right? So if your people want to back to trees and they don't have any lots of back to trees, hey, this is why you hired me. We're not going to go to ABC Builders in 123 neighborhood because they don't have any lots of back to trees. So they back to other units, or they back to a major road, or whatever the case might be.
But while you're there, still have to fill out that registration card for your buyer, just
with their name. Yeah.
So every time you visit a new home sales community for a client,
Always.
you can ask, say, can I register my client? And you give them your card and they'll staple it.
Right. Because they have a registration card for buyers, and they have a registration card for buyers with agents. And they attach your card to that registration card. Okay? Now, the other thing is, you want to look and see how much you're going to get paid, right? Just so you know, right? A A lot of builders today are 2% of the base price, and 2% of a base price that you cannot sell a house for in a neighborhood. Because the builders basically got sick of agents rebating their buyers in the hot market, so therefore they're penalizing the agents that don't rebate their clients in the market that we're in today. So there's some that are 2% of base price, some are 2% of final sales price, some are 3% of final sales price. So there's a number of different things, but just be aware so that you're not surprised, because you're going to have to sign a form when they write the contract as to how much you're going to get paid. The other thing is you want to see what their hours are and when the sales agent works. Okay? Sometimes on Mondays they don't get to the office till 3 o'clock because they have their sales meeting and they're turning in their contracts, and they don't get to the site. So you go out there at noon with your client and there's nobody there. So you don't want to look like you don't know what's happening. Okay? The other thing is what days the sales agent works, because they could have somebody who's an assistant who knows nothing and can give you no information because they're a temp and they don't even work for the builder. So you want to know, because if your clients have real questions and they want to write an offer on that house, then the salesperson will be there to answer those questions. Okay? So that's important to know what their hours are. And then some places are only open on weekends. So you want to make sure that they're only open on weekends, that you're not going out there when they're not there. The other important thing to know is what the average sales price is in the neighborhood. So, as an example, new home that I sold most recently, $701 base price. When they put in their structural options, it was $735. Their eventual sales price was $785. And my question to the salesperson is, where are we in relation to what other people have spent in this neighborhood on this house? And most people were between $780 and $800, so $785 they were on the low side. Why is that important?
Resale.
No penny, no penny.
Yeah, resale. Resale.
Resale's one.
Upgrades?
Potential equities like resale.
Upgrades. Like, how much money
So
they
they
spent
know
on
if it-
putting stuff
Oh,
in place,
appraisal?
they got.
Appraisal, right?
Wow.
Most builder contracts do not have appraisal contingencies in them. And the buyer will have to pay the cash difference. So let's say in that instance, it was $780 to $800 and my people spent $825. Guess what, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, we're going to have a potential issue. Do you have the cash to make up the difference between your appraised value and the sales price? So, very important to know. So resale, of course, is important, and potential equity down the road, but right in your face, what happens before either of those things is the appraisal. Okay? Also, again, depending on when the house is going to be ready, what the delivery time frame is, and how long it takes for them to build a house. So, and the other thing about new home sales contracts is, if you wrote one today, like the one that we wrote, it was in March, and they said July, August time frame, and it's probably going to be September. So the builders, although they say it's going to take 90 days, 120 days to build your house, it's usually longer. So you have to prepare your people for that too. So just say, okay, lot 1, you started when, and when did you deliver? Lot 3, and you have this conversation before you go out, so that you look smart to your clients. ABC Builders says that they take 90 days, but when I found out and asked them when they delivered, it's more like 150 days. So you kind of have to plan your timing on when you're going to be moving in.
Can I add something to that? So it goes back to the expectations, because I had this happen, and if you take the time, get a hold of a builder, I don't know if any of you have them, a builder's contract, much different from what we're used to. Very few outs for a buyer. They have up to 2 years to deliver that house.
After they start construction,
and I'll
not
give you
from
an
when you sign the
example
contract.
of how, what odd things can come up. I had people buy one, and it was gonna be the typical 90-day, which I always prepare my people. You know, if you're selling your home, you're gonna get out, we need that transition period, short-term housing, whatever you're gonna do. So they know about that. Their house was complete at about 120 days. Not a killer until they got this message. The county has now said that they have to build a bridge in a certain way and no certificate of occupancy for your house until that bridge is built. This went on for another 8 months. So my people ended up in a not very nice short-term rental because they're hard enough to find. They had 2 children already. They were having their 3rd child. The dream was, you know, the baby's nursery would be ready. Now the baby's born here. All their crap isn't out. It was not a fun situation. But also know that that earnest money deposit, if they finally say we're done, we're done, we want out, you lose that.
So do builders ever negotiate the contract? The terms?
Never.
No, especially in today's market.
They will keep their money. If it's a $50,000 earnest deposit, they will say, we're sorry it didn't work out. This is what the letter will say. You know, we're sorry it didn't work out, but we
have the legal right to keep the money, and we're giving it.
No, they just say, sorry it didn't work out. Thanks for choosing whoever. In the future, if we can ever help you, visit us again. Thanks for the 50 grand, basically.
Right.
And there's no negotiating. There is no. They can't sue because the contract said it. So you really owe it to yourselves to get a hold of one and spend some time reading it.
But see, the builders who do that should get a black eye in the market. Their reputation.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter from our perspective. Just understand that that's the reality. If you're dealing with
Like
buyers.
Winchester Homes kept my deposit once.
Right. But the point
And
is.
they're still building, and their reputation's not tarnished because they kept their money.
Right.
No, I haven't. I didn't go out and flame them on social media or anything.
It doesn't matter. People do that all the time. It doesn't.
They sold the house like the next day for more money than they were going to get from me. So they made out on the deal that I didn't back out. I lost a job. And I knew I couldn't actually get the mortgage, but it was after the financing contingency period had expired.
Right.
But just understand that is the contract and set that expectation so that they're not shocked and you don't have egg on your face, because to get buyers to come to you for new homes, you have to show your value. And what is your value? Is that you understand their contract and you know
You
what
can guide them
come
through the
down.
contract.
Right.
Bless you.
So so you need to know these things. They're very important. Whatever happens after that doesn't matter. They're not going to be happy if they felt like you just sat there, you came along for the ride, you got your name written on, you got your commission, or potentially could get a commission, and this thing blew up and you never told them.
Okay, so you have to know the contract, and we'll get into a couple other contract things that you're going to need to pay attention to. The other thing that's important to convey to your clients is that the sales agent represents the builder, and they're looking out for the builder every step of the way. And what they say to you is never binding. The only thing that's ever binding is what's written into the contract, like we spoke about earlier, right? And there's even a clause that the initial is you are not relying on any information that was verbally conveyed or expressed by the salesperson, and you have the initial next to that, because they will tell you that there's not a road being built behind the house. Absolutely not. Those are woods forever, and then it becomes a Fairfax County Parkway.
Right, they're not licensed agents. They don't work under
They don't
disclosure
have the
laws
rules.
that we have.
Yeah, the code of ethics.
Right, they don't have
apply.
any of that. They say whatever they want to say to get the sale.
Right. So they are oftentimes salary or a draw against commissions, right? And some builders pay more money to the sales agent if there's not another agent on the purchase of one of their listings or one of their houses. So you have to know that going in. So they're oftentimes at an adversarial relationship with you because they're going to make less money working with you and your clients than if they just work directly with your clients. So, to Penny's point, if somebody's going to be looking at a new home, you never want them to go there unaccompanied with you until after the contract's ratified. Then they can go out to the house often as they want. Because we have had this happen before, ratification, they said, Jennifer, if you don't bring in Kevin, we can give you a discount. That way we don't have to pay him. I know you're under agreement with him, but he's probably not gonna sue you, but come in and we'll cut you a better deal. And the reason they say that is because they're making more money. They're not gonna give you 3% off the price, they're not gonna give you 2% off the base price, they might just give you 1%, they're gonna make a 0.5% more, but and a lot of times, it depends on the builder, they're gonna try and cut the agent out. So until the contract's ratified, don't have your people go to the site unaccompanied.
And can I say something about ratifying the builder's contracts that the general public doesn't realize, because they're very high pressure sales. Sometimes they will go in, they'll call you that day, they'll tell you what happened, and now there's some regret. They don't realize that contract is not ratified. A sales rep signed it, they don't know, because the sales rep does not talk about their right of rescission, which they have, from 3 days, because they're gonna hand them their HOA docs that day. And that it's not binding until the proper person from that company has signed it. So, if they want out, they have a perfect out and you can help them get out of it that way. So keep that in mind. If they get cold feet or there was something that happened, sometimes it takes 10 days to get that back signed from the builder.
Correct.
And you can get them out during that period of time.
So back to the wooded lot, someone wants a wooded lot, can you write it in the contract that can say that the lots behind will remain wooded?
The builder won't sign it.
They won't sign it.
If you try to add anything in or strike anything
Right.
out, they'll kick it down.
They won't negotiate their contracts.
I was a new home sales manager for 3 years, and so I have some
Inside,
background in
yeah.
that side of it. And no builder, maybe in a desperate market, but it would have to be a desperate market.
So, right, correct.
Can you warn your client that they will try to make contact with you to cut me out?
Yeah, say, hey, we have a buyer agent, yes, when you're doing your buyer agency agreement, hey, if you're gonna go and see for sale by owners, let me come with you. If you're gonna go to new home sites, let me come with you, because if you go and you buy a property, you are gonna owe me this commission. So it's best to have me with you at all times. And there'll be unscrupulous sellers out there and some builders who will try to lure you into not working with me to save you money, but you're still gonna owe me money.
Yeah.
So you have that in the buyer agency consultation meeting.
And if they do bring that up, because a lot of buyers do think that if they go there without you, they're gonna get 3%.
Doesn't happen.
Chances are so slim, very, very slim. And what Scott's
Especially
right about,
builders.
there are some desperate measures that the salespeople will take if they're in a program where they're getting a portion of that side of the commission. If there is no agent, that's pretty rare though. Most of them,
I'll talk off tape who
Yeah.
they are.
okay, because there are some to watch out for, and Scott knows who they are.
Right. Okay, so every builder's contract is different, all right? The number one thing that you need to be aware of, and the buyers need to be aware of, is where the deposit's going. Most of the time, where does the deposit go?
Into the builder's account?
Into the builder's operating account. Okay? Now, if it's a publicly traded company and the stock is doing well, that's not a problem. If it's a publicly traded company and the stock is in the tank and is going down fast, could that be a problem?
Yes.
Yes. So this is where you add value to your clients before they select a builder and before they make the earnest money deposit, that you track and see the reputation of the builder. If it is a small builder who does 3 to 5 houses a year, could that be a problem?
Yes.
It could be a problem, in which case you would say, we want to have money put in escrow versus your operating account. Because you don't want that deposit to be used and then have the builder go under and then your clients lose that money.
Right, that's what'll happen, because the money is being used. Somebody goes bankrupt, your client's money is gone. They have to go to the bankruptcy court over in Alexandria and try to settle for pennies on the dollar, so they won't even bother because they get nothing back.
Yeah.
Isn't it illegal to put it in their operating?
No, because it's in the contract. They agree to it. So you have to let them know. I have not seen very many builder contracts that the money goes into escrow. Most of the time it goes into their operating account.
So what are you suggesting they do?
It depends on the builder. If it's a
usually
builder
done.
who's having problems and those people can't live without that house, which we all know, or you will find out, some people just have to have that house, no matter what. And then you say, okay, well, I want to protect you. We want to have, because this builder's stock has gone down 50% in the last 3 weeks, and they've got a bunch of crappy lots and they're not selling houses, they could go under. Let's see if they'll put this money in escrow.
Alright, just ask.
Yeah.
And
Try and
if not,
negotiate and
then
say,
let 'em
look,
know.
I'm looking out for you. You're
Right.
putting this money at risk.
Just let them know
Now,
then.
What if the builder says no, they sign a contract?
well, then the
And that's
buyer has to
risk.
make the
a
decision.
Why
Hey, we tried to help you, we tried to protect you, know that this money could be at risk. Now, the other thing is, every builder has different percentage of deposits for their earnest money deposit. Some are 5%, some are 10%, some are 20%. So you have to see what that is. Now, if your clients don't have the money, you can see if you can negotiate. We'll give you $5,000 a month for the next 3 months to get to the $15,000 or whatever their deposit is. So it's a way, again, for you to add value. If you know your clients have to sell their house in order to buy this one, see if you can negotiate when the deposit money is due. And you especially want to do that if you have a VA buyer and they're not putting any money down and they have no money. So you have to have that conversation too before you go out with your clients at new home sales site. Okay? So sometimes you'll have a deposit when you write the contract, and then they'll have to put up 50% of the option money when they make their selections. So you have to see what the builder's policies are so that you can prepare your buyers so they know what the expectations are for their deposit money. So we talked about no appraisal contingencies. Sometimes if they will accept a contingent contract on the sale of a home, a lot of builders will not. Renee's working with one right now, and we've discussed this multiple times. It's like $100,000 deposit, and if they don't close, they could lose their deposit because it's a $1.1 million house, right? So they want a 10% deposit. So it's been a series of conversations we've had about where we're going to price their house because they're not taking contingent contracts, and these people have to have this house, right? So it is something that you need to check. So appraisal contingencies. We talked about the other thing is you typically have to use their lender, right, in order to get benefits like closing costs paid and finished basements and things along those lines. But if you lose your job, you can lose your deposit. There's no finance contingencies in these contracts. Now sometimes they will be nice and they will let you out if something like that happens. Not all builders do. So you don't want to set the expectation that if you lose your job or something happens, you don't sell your house, that you can get your deposit back. So typically no escape clauses like there are in the resale contract.
So it always helps for you to have a good relationship with the salespeople that you're working with. Get along well with them, be professional. Because
What should you do, Penny? You should preview 5 houses a day, including new homes. And you go out and you revisit these new homes on a regular basis so that you have that relationship with them.
Because if something were to go south, you have a better chance of them kind of being in your corner and going up to the builder on behalf of your clients if something like that should happen, and they'll let them out. It's rare, but it's always best to have a good relationship with them. Sometimes it seems a little bit hard, and you might hear that they're all very difficult. Not always.
Right. So, the other thing to know is that, again, if the buyer uses the builder's lender and title company, there can sometimes be $10,000 towards closing costs, and they're not always the best deals. Now, what we have been able to write into the contract and get accepted is purchaser agrees to use builder's lender so long as the builder's lender matches the rates of a reputable, professional, local lender. So if they have, just to say, NVR mortgage, right? NVR mortgage isn't coming into our office and trying to get us to give them loans. They only work with NVR homes, NV Homes and Ryan Homes, right? So you can take them a George Mason mortgage and an MVB and say, hey, here's the published rate, match this rate, okay? So there's oftentimes where you have to make a selection of the lender within 10 days typically, so again, you have to read the contract. And then there's also, they'll allow you to use your own settlement company. If you don't use theirs, you have to make that selection within 10 days. So if you're not going to use their people, you have to abide by their contract, because they are going to be sticklers where an agent on the resale side may not be as up to speed with the contract, and you could be putting your purchasers in default if they don't abide by those contract terms. But usually it's 10 days. The other thing is, again, like Penny said, you could be as many as 30 days before you get a contract. 10 days is good, right? But if it's not delivered, you can oftentimes get your clients out if they want to. The other thing I always ask for is a contract in advance of us going to write. So you'll go and you'll look at the house, you'll love it, don't want to go back, and you'll say, the Johnsons want to write a contract next Saturday, or set up the appointment time, and ask for a copy of it in advance. And most of the contracts are like 30 to 50 pages. They're long, and they're on 8.5 by 11. They're not on short forms, okay? And you're going to want to know what they are, highlight, and let your clients know what the differences are between the resale contract and the new home contract. If the on-site agent is going to not give you the contract, say, you know what, my client is a stickler for details, and they're going to read that whole contract. So you might as well send it to me now, so we don't spend 3 hours in the contract writing. If they know everything that's in there, they'll initial, and sign. Versus if you don't give it to me now, they're going to read everything now. How do you want to handle it? So if they get difficult, throw that back on them, right? So that you can do your job and review before. The other thing is, and this is especially important now, is the contract say products and offerings are subject to change without notice, and builder has the ability to switch out products of similar quality. So basically what it says is, I know we said we're getting GE Profile, now we're getting Samsung Ultra, right? Do your people really want GE Profile or Samsung Ultra? Right, I mean, I'm just throwing out whatever that Samsung name is.
They reserve the right to make that.
They have the right to change the materials without telling you, and you go to the walkthrough, and next thing you know, you've got a water fountain like that instead of what they're expecting. And because there's a lot of new homes today, there could be backlogs on, you know, it could be, they said they're going to install a Train, and now they're installing a Goodman HVAC, right? Or an A.O. Smith, and now they're going with a different brand. So you have to let your people know, especially with a lot of new home sales, they may not get what they're saying that they're going to deliver. It does happen, and that's why you have to set that expectation. It doesn't happen often, but guess what? It's going to happen to you, it's going to happen to you, and it's going to happen to you. It may not happen to the rest of us, but guess what? If you don't tell them, then you could potentially lose a client over.
And there is something else in there. If, let's say they were supposed to have a fireplace and they missed the fireplace, they still have to buy the house. There's not going to be, well, we're not settling stuff.
That's my question.
You'll be in default if you don't settle, and they'll just take off whatever the cost of that fireplace was. That's their liability. That's it. Sorry.
Right.
There's no further, we're going to sue them because now it's going to be $8,000. Sorry, that's not what the contract
So
says.
if it's in a drawing though that they give you and it shows the fireplace, they still can go, oh,
They'll just give you, if it was a $4,000 option, they'll take $4,000 off. That's it. There's no more liability. They are not on the line that they have to come back and install it. But again, maybe if you had a good relationship with the people, the sales agents and the foremans that were working, there might, that's why I just always keep a good relationship. Your clients need to know what that contract says so that you don't have egg on your face.
And then here's where you add value, right? So typically, if the house isn't already built, which is called a spec home, right, that was built on speculation, or it was built for someone who was going to sell their house and then couldn't sell their house, and now it's sitting there, and you see what you're getting. They'll have a construction meeting, typically about 2 weeks after you write the contract, and you're gonna be with the superintendent, and he's gonna say, okay, you have selected these structural options. A lot of times that meeting will happen before they even go to the design center to pick out their cosmetic options, right, with their flooring and stuff like that, because the structural options are gonna be important, which includes the fireplace, sunroom, bay windows, walk-up, basement, whatever the case might be. You want to be at that meeting so that you can protect your clients and know that that's what they're gonna be getting, okay?
Can you take your clients on like walkthroughs during different stages?
So every builder's gonna be different, and it's stated in their contract. Some of them, you have to go in and check at the model home, you have to get a hard hat and go out to the site. Other ones are like, hey, you know, it says here because of insurance purposes, but go ahead and go out, right? So it depends, and it depends on the relationship you have with the person. So you have that pre-construction meeting, and then what you should do is you should make periodic visits to the house and make sure that that fireplace is in. So what happened was we had a walkout basement over here and a bay window over here and a deck in the middle, and the builder flipped the house, and guess what? The deck is now over the walkout, and so they said, well, instead of saying, let's change the design of the deck, the builder just didn't put in the walkout.
Oh, wow.
Which was like a huge deal for these people.
Yeah.
And it became a huge fight. But the agent didn't go out and didn't look at the construction and didn't have the conversation with the project supervisor. People are coming in from out of town, so they can't check on it. So again, it's a way that you add value to the transaction is, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna make periodic visits at the site to make sure things are coming along.
How is it that an agent can go out and make periodic checks when the client can't?
No, it's in the
Well,
contract,
yeah.
it's in the
Well, whatever
contract.
the contract says, so go out and talk to the foreman and say, hey, I wanna come out tomorrow and just take a look at the house.
Yeah. Right, so neither you or the client can go for insurance.
Right.
That's what the contract says. But
But
if you have a good relationship with them, they'll give you a hard hat and tell you to go out and look.
Yeah, and again, it's, you know, the relationships and everything, and get out there, and if you knew, you could have caught it, because
Of course.
maybe they could have done something at that time instead of the big surprise at the end, right? With
Right.
the no walkout, which was a big deal.
Since the new construction system is designed to build on top of the other, like, so first they do the structural, then they go to the design center and all that, so it just like people probably don't realize sometimes that they're just growing and growing on the, you know, what they're getting. Is it okay to ask ahead from the design center a list of like materials and pricing and things
Yeah,
like
but
that?
there's so many. So there's gonna be 5 types of hardwood floors and 6 different colors in those hardwood floors. So they're typically not gonna release those types of things. But what you ask, again, when you're there and your pre-site visit is, what do people typically spend on flooring upgrades, because my people want hardwood floors? And the site agent will say, that's between $20,000 and $30,000, right? So you wanna find out what the important options are for your clients that they're gonna wanna have, and what a range for values or prices are gonna be for those things.
And that's another excellent point, because when you're writing that contract that day, you don't know possibly what that final sales price is gonna be until they get to the design center, because they won't have those prices. They're gonna be told, you go to the design center and you pay for upgrade 2, for instance, but they don't really know the final cost. So back to the appraisal and back to potential disappointment if they get there and they go, oh, we want that tile, we want that wood, we want that, and they find out, well, that's, you know, $47,000 and you had only accounted for $20,000. So as long as they know, again, you can keep things on a happy note, because they knew what to expect and they avoided the big disappointment of, now we can't have wood floors.
Honey, have you ever seen agents go to the design meetings?
So the
Yeah.
question is, or the answer is yes.
Yes.
and the answer is don't go.
Yeah, it's not a,
And so,
you'd be there for hours.
they are between 3 and 5 hours.
They're like
Right.
8 hours.
Yeah, they can
Yes.
be,
And the
some
thing
people will
is-
keep going back.
Monica says one color and Kevin says the other, and they say, Jennifer, what do you think?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
And they put you in the middle of the two of them
It's,
Yeah.
and say, hey, it's not my house.
Yeah.
Well, then why are
I
you
think
here?
it's a good
Right? So
idea.
you just say, hey, it's a personal thing. I don't want to get in the way of it. I don't want you
Yeah.
guys to feel
Go
rushed because
enjoy.
I have another appointment. I want you to go and do it on your own.
yeah,
And take your time.
But do
have
you give them
fun.
reminders like, just remember, this is what you wanted to spend, and you might
Right.
want to
Well,
look at the choices
that
and try
point,
to stay.
You've already had that discussion with them.
Yeah.
Now they're with the person at that place,
Yeah.
and they're gonna ask, they'll take care of everything at that point. Then, but you already told them, be careful with your choices over there.
Mhm.
Right.
You budgeted this
You can put in a
much.
backsplash less expensively after closing,
Right.
right?
So they'll know, because that person, by the end of their 8 hours or whatever it is that they spend with them, yeah, you definitely wanna say it, cause that stuff can go on for days too. They can keep changing their mind, they go back, and it's, an interesting ordeal.
Yes. The other thing is, there's gonna be the inspections, right? So they have the pre-construction meeting, then they'll have a pre-drywall meeting, then they'll have the settlement walkthrough, and then the day of closing walkthrough, okay? So you wanna see how many inspections they have and how many they allow you to go on. Some of them won't allow you to go, right? Some builders won't allow home inspections. Some builders allow home inspections the day before the walkthroughs that they have with the buyer and you as the agent. Sometimes they'll look at the buyer's, the home inspection report, and sometimes they won't. So it's very important to find out what the policy is on inspections. And I always recommend a pre-drywall home inspection as well as a settlement inspection so that there's no discrepancies. Now they're gonna have, the builder's gonna say, well, we had the county inspector come out. Well, that's for inspection things that has nothing to do with cosmetic things, like bowed 2x4s and
Yeah.
things like that.
So you said
Trusses, and, I mean, anything can happen after the inspector leaves. We've all seen things happen, so never discourage a private home inspector.
It's worth the money.
So you're saying a pre-drywall home inspection, and what's the other one you said? You want-
Settlement.
Pre-settlement, okay.
So they'll have pre-settlement, so a week before closing, they'll have an inspection when the house is finished. And that's when that one takes so a pre-drywall inspection takes about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the size of the house. And then a pre-settlement inspection, which is a week before, takes 2 to 3 hours, because they're demonstrating the house. They're showing where the shutoffs are, where the for the hose bibs and the gas and the main water, and they're running the appliances and doing all that stuff. So again, that's more like a home inspection. But and then the settlement inspection the day of closing usually takes about a half hour. Okay, but you want to attend all of those as well as do periodic site visits
And the
so
reason-
that there's no surprises when you go to
Yeah.
closing.
When they, that pre-settlement is a good one, because there's things up in the attic that you guys aren't going up there. And, they could be minor, they could be major, there could be a cut truss, there could be, they forget to take the things off of the side vents that you wouldn't know, and then the people move in and 2 years later there's a problem. So let your people know it's always money well spent, just do it.
Yeah.
And then you have the home inspector's list, and that's your opportunity, their opportunity to give it to the builder as part of their walkthrough things that they need addressed.
So when do you have the home inspector come?
Pre-drywall
Week.
and pre-settlement. They don't have to come to the settlement one.
Because remember, the builder is going to more than likely fix all of those things that you can find before they move in. And at least they're on their list.
It's when they framed
Before there's no
everything
drywall. It's just studs,
And you'll see wiring, right?
and you can see
And
through.
you schedule that with the builder.
The builder schedules it and you show up. You don't schedule anything. They tell you when to be there, and if you're not there, too bad.
Yeah, they won't wait for you.
They're not waiting, because
But
they
you
have production.
have to ask for it.
Pardon me?
But you have to ask for it. They usually have it
No,
scheduled for you.
they have them,
So
but
when
you
the
don't
inspectors
schedule.
are coming,
They're gonna say, they'll send a letter and they'll say, your pre-drywall inspection is 10:30 on Tuesday the 22nd.
Okay.
And if you get there at 11, they're done and they're on to the next house. So
you'll see-
you can't say, well, no, we can't do it then, can we do it in 3 days? And they're gonna say no. So builders are not like homeowners. They are all about the builder. And they're all about their time frames because they're production builders and they're going on to the next house. Their job is to finish houses, not be nice.
What if you got there at 10:30 and they already did it?
Too bad.
Well, then, no, if it's scheduled at 10:30, they're not gonna start at 9.
Right.
They're gonna start at 10:30. Okay? The other thing that you wanna find out is what their warranties are. Okay? And what their walkthroughs are after closing. Some builders will do a 6-month walkthrough and a 1-year walkthrough. Some will do a 30-day walkthrough and a 1-year walkthrough. So you want to find out what their walkthroughs are. Okay? And the walkthroughs will be primarily cosmetic stuff, right? It's going to be cracks in drywall, nail pops, things like that. What you want to find out is what their policy is on painting. Don't have your people put up wallpaper and then they have a crack in the drywall because they're not going to put the wallpaper back up. They're 95% of the time, they're not going to paint the color that you've painted it or the sellers or buyers have painted it. Okay? So you want to have that conversation with your clients as to when they should paint and what the hazards of painting are prior to their final walkthroughs. Also, you want to see if there's a structural warranty, like a 210 warranty, something along those lines, in case there's structural things. Some builders will waive the warranty because the Virginia state warranty is better. So you want to keep that in mind.
Called a 210?
210 structural warranty. Yeah.
It's really only structural. It's not
Roof.
like a home warranty.
It's
right?
not a home
They
warranty.
have stuff, and they have
Right,
to pay
and that's what-
$500 to file a complaint, if that's what you want to call it, a claim. I mean, and then every year it goes down and covers less and less and less.
Right.
So it's different from.
And not every builder offers those.
Right.
So you have to find out if they do offer warranties.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, what are the warranties on the appliances, heating, air conditioning, things like that. Some of them are 1 year, some of them are 2 year. So the more you know about the warranties, the more you can convey the differences between the builders to your clients. Okay? And then the other thing is, new homes are expensive, right? You're gonna have to do landscaping. You're gonna have to put in blinds. Sometimes you have to put on a deck. Sometimes you have to finish the basement.
Closet
Right.
organizers.
You're gonna have to
Lighting
paint.
fixtures.
Yeah, you're gonna do closet order. So it is typically more expensive, especially after closing, to buy a new home. So you wanna see if your clients are prepared to make those investments, right? You don't wanna have the paper trifold things from Home Depot in your windows for 6 years. 'Cause you
And that's a
can't
good point, because
afford
if
drapes
you've never
and blinds.
done this before and you're in the beautiful model homes, that's what your client has seen. And the day that they get there for their final walk, it's very different, it's very stark. There's many times nothing, there's no trim, it's very, they're getting a nice clean box.
Right,
So,
they're getting a blank canvas.
yeah, it's a lot different from what they saw, so you don't, prepare them for those additional costs
Yeah,
to make it.
and they can be pricey.
Yeah, and it's, those model homes are really meant to show a buyer what that house could be over the course of the next 10 years,
Right.
right? And in budgeting and doing what you want to make it your own.
All right. Any questions? All right. Go sell something. Thursday is the settlement.
Hey, Diana,